All right, new morning, new day. We're back on the car, still continuing to, tick those boxes off. And one box that I really want to try and tick off, but actually genuinely try and do it quite well, is hot riveting. And I'm definitely not an expert at this. I've only done it a couple times. I've read a lot about it. I've looked at tutorials and videos and all sorts. I've asked a few questions from a few guys I know that can do it. And I'm just kind of, trial and error as much as I can in order to improve the way it looks. So let's get into this one. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and hit that notification. We'll see you soon. What I have, a little solid rivet. It has got a 3/8 shank on it, which fits perfectly in our 3/8 hole that we have. And what I'm planning on doing is actually putting these in and riveting them into place in order to make it look kind of like the factory rivets. So unfortunately, these ones are a little bit bigger, but it's just what I had. I have quite a few, several containers of these in jars. I've showed you these before. Got another little jar. These ones are smaller. These are 5/16, so they'll be perfect for the front cross member. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a rivet tool that I can put in my little pneumatic hammer. And I have a several different little attachments for this that are for smaller, tiny little rivets that I would use for putting sheet metal together. So what I'm trying to figure out now, what I've done here, hopefully that'll focus. This is a wheel nut welded, and I've welded the inside onto a shank that would have had just a smaller style rivet. The inside, I've used a drill bit to kind of drill it out. And then what I'll do is I'll just put this in the vise so I can show you a bit easier. Hands free, sorry. Okay, so I don't know if you can quite see it. It doesn't like to focus when I go very close, but what that does is it's basically I'm trying to get the same shape as the rivet. So when I use my buck, the back bit, this is my buck. I've kind of drilled a little hole out as well. Probably not necessary. I could just use the flat bit, but I am trying to achieve kind of a dome on each side. So this is the one I usually use for all my little aluminum ones. Works great, flattens out the back. But with this one, I want to try and get, the buck up in the corner there, and then I can put the shank through and then hammer that out. So I've tried a couple pieces just for trial and error, and you can kind of see this is just 2 bits of 4mm steel put together. That one was the actual head, so you can see where the drill where I've put the pilot hole for kind of trying to countersink the little inside has kind of risen on there. So all your impurities or anything that's inside of here, once these are cherry red and you go and hammer them, you're gonna get all the imprints in them. I thought it'd be really cool to actually have a little B in there for Bennett's, would be wicked. But anyway, so this one you can see I was pretty hard on the tool, had this one pretty hot, and that was me trying to cone it down with the buck on the back, so it didn't quite work. This one looks really nice where the head was, but on the shank side, it didn't quite work as well. So I'm gonna maybe re-drill a couple more holes in this and then we'll try a couple more. But what I need to do is try and improve the inside of that. So I was using my little 90-degree air grinder, and I had this little kind of one, and I was sort of like spinning it like that, and that was definitely cleaning up, you know, the close end, but where it's deep is not. So what I think I need to do is actually just put a bit of weld in there, or I can kind of grind this surface down a little bit more to make it slightly shallower, and then we'll try and achieve that same profile that we have of the head of the rivet inside there. So I may even be able to put this in the drill. Maybe I can fix the drill inside the lathe and then like use a little carbide bit, or put it in the lathe. Maybe that would probably be the easiest thing to do, which I'll probably do. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at. So I'm just gonna play around with it a little bit, try and finesse it and get it to work better. And then once that's done, then we can rivet this in. We can rivet the front cross member in. So this actually kind of worked. I just spun this in the lathe, and we kind of just cleaned out the inside. I actually used like a carbide bit and then a tiny little stone, and then just with some 40 and 60 grit sandpaper to clean it out. It fits nice. It's not quite all the way down because I want this to not, you know, make contact to the frame, because if it does, it's going to obviously want to leave a mark. So I'm kind of hoping that that'll just press it in. So that's the shank side. I'm not sure. I'm going to try both ways. So I'm going to put the buck on this side, and we're going to try and drill and hammer another one, and then I'll spin it around and I'll try this way when we use the shank and hammer on that side and see what the shape comes out like. So we're going to try that now. So I'll drill a couple more holes in this bit here, and then we will pop these through and try it. So all I did, rather than drilling holes, I just cut the back end with the angle grinder, and this side as well. These are kind of the shank sides. So all I'm gonna do is take this with my pointed one on for hitting them out, whack them out, install new ones, try that. She's very loud. And it's early in the morning, so hopefully we'll wake everybody up. Just gonna open this up so it fits nice. I might just leave that other one in there for now. I think it's probably quite important to know that you do want like a pretty tight tolerance with these from memory. Actually, that's pretty tight. I think the tighter you have them, the easier it is to splay out and actually like fit well. All right, we're gonna give this a crack, see what happens. So what I'm gonna do, gonna heat up this rivet until it's hot. I'm actually gonna do it inside, but usually I could just stick it down on the other ones. I kinda heated it up, then I put it in, but I'm just gonna try and heat it up in the material just to see. The other ones I'll probably do it on, but we'll just have a crack, see what happens. So I need to get the torch set up. So I'm just gonna go like this. We're just gonna heat this up. And we basically just want it to be like a
on just the slightly hotter side than cherry red. It is a bit tricky kind of heating it up in this without getting the other material hot, but it's probably nicer actually to heat the whole entire rivet up so that the shank where it goes through the material actually is nice and warm. Like this will slowly kind of get it dissipate, get its way down the shaft, but an even heat for the whole rivet's actually probably not a bad thing. So, but let's just try it. It's all about trial and error here. So okay, so kind of taking a bit too long there, but that's all right. That worked out really, really well. Don't know what the backside looks like. Bit munched. Yeah, okay, not as good as I thought, but close. I think we need to kind of work on the buck a little bit, try and get that a bit cleaner. But you can see that's the shank side. So obviously our new kind of design we did on the tool has worked. Backside mushroomed a little bit, but if you look kind of vertically, you can kind of see it's not quite smushed. But I think that also has to do with the amount of heat that I had. So might just try this. It's also very hot, this thing. We're just gonna give it another little crack. Oh, that's way better. Yeah, that's cool. Dig that. Okay, so I cleaned up my buck. I've got a nice face on it now, and was able to clean that out a bit more, so that actually fits nice. I threw this back in the lathe, took a little bit more off the edge and kind of rounded it, just so I would be able to get a bit more. On my first pass, I was a bit cold, and on my second one, I went a bit crazy, and I actually made contact to the material. So this way, if you can see in there, I got a little bit more wiggle room to try and get that little area flat. So backside looks great. Sits in the buck really nicely, and then want to hammer that side. So I'm not too sure what's better, to hit the shank side or not. So I'm gonna kind of look into that right now, and yeah, I think I'll just try either way and see what way works better. I should have done this on camera, but I completely forgot to hit record, and it worked. So maybe a blessing, because if it didn't work, it didn't look, but it's good to show you're screwing up and the things you do wrong in order to make them right. So this worked. As you can see, I'm super happy with that. It looks really cool. The backside, done really nicely. It just worked, like just trimming off the end of this and kind of rounding it off like this way, just so you don't make contact. But that, once I give that a little wire wheel, I think that's gonna look awesome. So what I did was I actually did it twice. So I heated up the rivet, I stuck it in there, hammered it, and then it cooled down quite quickly. So I just got the torch here, as you can see a little bit of the heat here. I just got the torch right on the end of it and just kept it really close, pulled it off, hammered it one more time, and it was super tight. So I'm gonna show you exactly how I just done that, and then we'll go through and do the rest of them. So very exciting. I'm super happy that that worked out. It definitely paid to do 6, I think I did 6 rivets on this one. So I just kept grinding them and punching them out and redoing it. So that's really good to do. I'm happy. I could probably even slightly go a little bit cleaner with this buck and try and make it look a little bit nicer, but I'm happy with it. I think it looks awesome. Definitely looks factory. Maybe slightly bigger than usual, but I did measure them to the 40 Ford chassis crossmember that I have over there, and they're like, oh, they're very close. So for me, I'm happy with that. All right, let's do these guys. And then these ones are gonna be a little bit tricky. I might actually have to cut the end of this buck off, which I kind of don't really want to do. But if I can find another chunk of steel, I might make another one. But these guys are kind of hard to get to up inside. They're, as you can see, kind of, especially that guy up in the corner, a little bit tricky to get to. So we'll see how we go. Okay, so this is gonna be a bit tough to do. Have you on the tripod, so hopefully you can kind of see everything I'm about to do. So I'm just gonna get everything kind of set up where I want it. I'll put my buck, yeah, there. And then we got our rivet. I want the pneumatic tool to be close. So I'll probably sit that, make sure everything's tight. So that's there. Come in, got room. I'm gonna pull this guy out. A little bit hot. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, gloves on. We got our destroyed 90-degree needle nose pliers that I've heated up. They actually kind of work to hold it in. I'm just gonna test fit this, make sure I can get it in there. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna put that down. Hopefully it stays like that. Right, so over here, I'm just gonna show you if you can't quite see it. I've just put some clamps down on my vise. It just holds the torch, so I don't have to, so I can just quickly drop that, hammer it in, then turn it off. Hopefully not wasting too much gas. So that's gonna be sitting over there. Okay, so I'm gonna put my eye protection on and my hearing protection because that hammer is very loud. All right, everything's set up, got the buck there. Got to be quick and efficient with this so that we don't let this cool down too much. So I'm gonna fire up the torch, grab our rivet. I'm prone to dropping this, so I probably will drop it. Trying to get a nice even heat all the way around it, not holding it in one spot, just moving the flame around the rivet. I've found that it works a little bit better if I get it a bit warmer than kind of that cherry hot that people have explained. Okay, so torch down, rivet in. Okay, rivets on. This is actually cooling down, so I'm just gonna quickly heat this up just a little bit. I couldn't get it quite in the hole fast enough, so. Okay, and on. Awesome. I might just do it a little bit more. If I can just heat up the head, just to flatten it out just a little bit more. Lock on the back, holding it tight. Boom! That one turned out better than the other one. And it's mushrooming on the back too, so like I know we're getting a wicked press fit, so I'm really liking that. And the cool thing is, like, what I mentioned before, anything that's in here is going to transfer in that because it's warm. So this is quite nice and clean. Like I spent a bit of time trying to get a bit of sandpaper in there. I only did like 60 grit, but you can tell like it's kind of gone in. And what I can kind of do as well is move it slightly as I'm going, and it kind of just like rounds that edge over. But I'm really happy with the way that that's turned out. Now I am getting a little bit of heat, you know, kind of in the frame. I don't think it's too big of an issue. I feel like if we were in kind of an area where it would, you know, if it was here and it wasn't quite fixed, but because we are right on this cross member and everything is kind of tight and I still got the bolts holding everything together, I think it's okay. And yeah, like obviously when you're doing this, you want to make sure you keep these in and they're tight at all times, because if we were to pull all these out and try and bang a rivet in, and if these weren't lined up, there's no way that these are going to fit, because these are a 3/8 shank, the same as these bolts, so they are quite a tight fit, which is good. So I'm super happy with that. That's awesome. That worked out so well. I just want to do them all now. All right. Rivet number 3. I'm just going to get this kind of hooked in on our really badly done pliers, but just holds it. I'm going to put that down for a sec. Hopefully I can pick that back up. Pull this guy out. Just going to double check that that'll fit. No, it won't. This needs to be cleaned out just ever so slightly with my 3/8 drill bit. Boom. Make sure there's no burr on the other side. Perfect. All right. Get this set back up. Got my buck ready. That should fit. Made a new one. All right, let's try and get that guy in there. Nope. All right, I'm gonna try and, oh, anything would be great. Be great to have 3 hands too, that's why. Where's my hammer? Where's my fucking hammer? Okay, round 7. Poor rivet, really been heated up, you know? Okay, that one didn't quite work. I didn't have enough force on the backside, so it kicked back out. But I should be able to just... That should work. All right. So some of them go smoothly, some of them don't. That's okay though. I think just gonna get this one nice and hot, trying to focus obviously the flame on the actual rivet, but down. Cooling down too quick, I think, again. Yeah. 2-person job, I reckon. Get you on the back side of the buck. Better? So it usually doesn't take that much time, but how's that backside look?
Pretty good.
Oh yeah, nice and tight. Yeah, so that's the trouble about trying to do it as one person with a buck. Like, you really want the heavier, or if you can even clamp this into place. I mean, that's obviously the rivet can't go back anymore, so you're just completely sandwiching it between the two pieces that you're trying to rivet together. So I think moving forward for the next ones, like that guy, I could probably get it in, throw the buck on and maybe clamp it in, or get Ben on the buck with his gloves and he's kind of able to push against it quite hard and I can kind of fight him. So rather than, you know, if there's two of us, we can probably get a bit more power in it. But yeah, that's awesome. Frothing on the way it's turning out, it looks great. Super happy. You wouldn't even know. Maybe you would if you got a trained eye, but all right, next up. Okay, so for this one, you can see I've put the buck in and I've held it in place. So unfortunately, this one I'm not actually going to be able to preheat before installing, but that's okay. I'll just try and get it as warm as I can and hopefully just do it nice and slow, and hopefully the heat will actually kind of dissipate down into the rest of the rivet. But that's clamped into place. It's just super hard to get a buck up underneath here with a hand and trying to get enough pressure. So that's clamped in there. So we're going to heat this up and then we're going to hammer this one down and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's awesome. Nice and tight, real nice tight mushroom all the way down. I think that'll do just fine. Probably not a bad thing too to like, well, it comes off anyways, but maybe wire wheel the area that you want to do just so you get lots of clean material. And I kind of forgot to mention prior to putting this in, I did kind of rust convert the inside of this where I had to wire wheel where they were originally touching on the original one. It was just had a bit of surface rust and a bit of pitting. If I were put a bit of edge prime in there, it would have just burned off anyways. Kind of what's happened in there, all this just, that top coat has just kind of come off, but that's okay. All right, so we got another one ready to go. I'll grab a rivet. Old mate Gary here is I'm gonna drop in a rivet. Let's just make sure. So I'm gonna heat this guy up. I'm gonna drop this little bitch down in there.
Yep.
You're gonna throw this on like that. Actually, I'll just heat it up. And so this is gonna be pulled down. I need you to pull that down,
yep.
But don't like put heaps of force on it that this is gonna come up and pring you in the eye because it's gonna vibrate a lot. Did that move?
Yeah.
Too much power. All right. Okay, back to the drawing board. Just need to re-weld that.
Next time I hobo, gonna have my woman by my side. And next time I hobo, gonna have my woman by my side. And if you make it to St. Louis, folks, stop by on the other side. I'll see you
we got them all done. They all look really nice. What I'm going to do is just quickly throw the wire wheel on the grinder. Got no table space anymore. And just going to quickly just clean them up, just see what they look like, inspect them, make sure they're all good, and then we'll move over to the other side. Looks f***ing awesome. Oh, I'm so stoked with that. I could probably, you know, play around with that even more, like really, really smooth it out so it would get them, but to be honest, I think that looks great. But I'll show you in another video afterwards, and I'll do the other side of the frame, and I'll show you kind of before and after, and yeah, we'll go from there. But this thing is almost ready, which I'm very excited. So what I'm gonna do is just let this dry for 10 minutes, and then we'll stick this bad boy in there. Start to line it up, re-bolt it in, and then we'll get the rivets set up. All right, well, that was a bit of a mission on the front crossmember bit. It was super hard to try and get that is extremely hot. Trying to get the buck up inside there to hold everything in and clamp it. It took a lot of like kind of wedges and everything to try and really make sure there was a ton of pressure on there. But I'm super happy with the way it turned out. There was a couple that I actually did and they were a little bit loose, but that was purely because of my placement of the buck wasn't quite proper. So I drilled them out, took them out, and you can kind of almost like hear it when you kind of like bang on the top with a hammer. It's that real dense, or it's kind of a high pitched sound, and you can tell right away. But these are definitely pressed in there. And everything is really tight. I probably still will just run like a small weld just along here, just to kind of fix that in a you know, sort of in position. I think I'm totally happy with the way it's turned out. I know it's completely safe. It's super structural, the way that the rivets are done. I've tested quite a few of them, and even like the ones that were kind of not great, they were super hard to get out. So I know that they're sandwiched. I could even see it when I was looking at the frame to cross member. It was really pulling it in every time I was kind of heating it up and doing it that way. So ideally, it would be amazing to be able to put these into like a little oven or like a tiny little forge and have them up to temperature and kind of sitting there, and you could pull them out and stick them in and then, you know, get your buck on there. Unfortunately, it's really hard. I definitely on the side ones was able to get them fitted, and then was able to kind of quickly get the buck in there and clamp it, and was able to, you know, get them on. But it is really tough. So there was a few, as you've seen, where I kind of had to put them in cold and kind of heat up the shank. But I had it like maybe 3 times on each one just to try and get the head, like the shank kind of pressed down and, you know, follow the contour of this here. So it definitely worked out, and I'm really happy with it. The back was definitely much easier to do. They were, you know, I had lots of room, was able to get the buck in there. And yeah, that turned out awesome. So I'm super pleased with it, but I think in the future, I'll probably, you know, make a few different setups to be able to clamp in the back a little bit better. And, you know, probably do a little bit more homework on the actual shank distance that comes out. I kind of did a little bit of research, and it said like it's 1.5 the thickness of your material that you're clamping together. That's how much the shank should be hanging out. So unsure if that's exactly accurate. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm totally just learning about this. You know, I'm no pro saying, hey, this is exactly how you do hot riveting. This is just how I kind of tried to do it, and it seemed to work. It definitely took a little bit of time and a bit of trial and error, but I'm definitely, you know, happy with how it's come out. They look awesome. Frame repair, that's in another video. Basically, next step is to try and get the body on, finish off a bit of welding, and then, yeah, kind of cut out the rear subframes, body on, mock up lightly, and then I'm gonna build some really cool, like, rear boxing plates that'll come off the rear cross member. They're gonna be kind of, I'm gonna use a wood buck and try and form them and then slide them inside so they're kind of have a nice bevel and can rivet them in so it looks like they're supposed to be there. But anyways, enough talking. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It was pretty neat to try it. You know, it definitely would have been way easier to just put some countersink bolts in, or carriage bolts in or whatever. But yeah, I think it looks really cool. I just wanted to give it a crack too. And I now know for future reference certain things that do work and don't work. So it's all a learning curve. That's all this is, you know. There's tons of little things I want to challenge myself, and yeah, definitely was able to. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you on another episode of Bennett's Customs. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit that notifications. I am gonna wrap up and grab a freezing cold beer out of the fridge because it is hot. So I'll see you guys in the next one.